to sort of round out our specialty fabrics, I wanted to get into some fabric that you may often hear about, but don't often see a lot of tutorials on, and they're so important because especially if you're doing special occasions design, there is this type of fabric that is used to give the illusion that a particular fabric or design or beading is placed on the skin. And it's usually achieved by this type of fabric called illusion mesh. And depending on how well this is done, and especially the kind of mesh that you use, will give a higher transparency and more of an illusion effect. So what I've done over time is, as I've done my projects, I've just kind of created a general like skin tone chart. And it's been very helpful to me. So when a client comes in and they're like, okay, I want this particular dress and it does require an illusion mesh, I'm able to just sort of take their hand and say, okay, which of these mesh samples is going to best match your skin, because it's not an illusion mesh if you can clearly see. So that's always been sort of like a pet peeve of mine. If I see a really well-made dress and I see the wrong illusion mesh being used, I feel like you can't really call it an illusion because I can see it. So here I have some swatches that I use, and I have them labeled based on skin types. So for some of these, so this top layer here, this is more of just my nude, and it's not an illusion. It's usually something I use as a lining. So it's usually, for example, if a dress is supposed to have that nude look underneath, I usually use something like this. And it's like the coverall for most skin types, even though it's a lighter color. Usually the way I use it is a way that it will blend in with most skin types, especially if it's used as sort of like a lining for a dress and it's not really going to be something very obvious you see. Now, if I'm talking about something that's going to be paired with lace or beading or something like that, then I want to make sure I'm more accurate. These top layers I have here, they're illusion, but they also have a little bit of visibility to them. And these, I often say, you can get away with it. It really depends on the design. You can use it as like a second underlining to a particular dress. I don't know if I would use this as a direct illusion, only because you can still see it. And for me, this is something you might see more in dance costumes or performance costumes, where you definitely need that durability, but you still want to have that illusion effect. So if you were creating something like that and you wanted that durability, but you still wanted that illusion effect, this is something you would use. It's more of a netting. It's called something between a power mesh and a netting. It has a great stretch to it, but it doesn't give you quite that illusion. And I just have them in different colors and different skin types so that I can try to match. Then we have something that is more of a tulle netting. And this is what I really would call my illusion mesh. And this, as you can see, is a lot more transparent, but it's not as strong as some of these up here, whereas you may run into holes and things like that, so you have to be very careful when you're sewing with this particular one. But what I like about it is it does have that illusion look. So if I put this against my skin, you are going to see less transparency, less distinction between my skin and the mesh itself. And that's what you want when you're creating an illusion effect on a dress, especially when you're talking about the neckline or maybe the sleeves. You want it to blend in with the skin as much as possible. So I've tried to, over the years, often use tulle, like a stretch tulle. It's often difficult to get it in the darker colors, especially this type. So I often find myself having this available and I'm like, no, I want it to have this look to it. So over the years, it's been sort of like a safari or journey trying to find ones that are for darker skin tones. But over the years, I've just accumulated some. I bought one that kind of goes across different skin tones. So if I'm running into like an intermediate skin tone where I can't find exactly the color that I want, I often use this, and it says tan nude tulle, and it goes against a variety of skin tones. And the less layers you use, the more likelihood you are to have that nude look. So if I'm just using the one layer, which is this, it's a little bit lighter, but it's not as bad. And the more layers you use, the more transparency, the less transparency you'll get. And it just goes across different skin tones, as you can see. And again, it's important that when you're doing your illusion method, there's a lot of testing involved. And once you sort of develop or accumulate the different color tones, I would definitely encourage you to make a chart similar to this. This is kind of like a crude chart that I put together, but it's definitely been helpful over the years as far as like putting together the proper skin tone so that I can match the illusion mesh so that we can achieve the look that we're trying to achieve for a particular garment. So these are called illusion mesh, and it just basically means you're creating the illusion that a particular garment or particular decoration is on the skin itself. For more detailed information regarding the most commonly used fabrics and special occasions dressmaking, please head to the link in the description for my specialty fabrics ebook. I go into full detail. There's pictures there and explanation of how to use the fabrics and the tips for the best possible outcome. Visit the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Videos are uploaded weekly covering dressmaking, fashion, lectures, and more.